Why avoidants respect distance more than love? Most people believe love is what keeps relationships alive. They believe the more affection you give, the closer someone feels, and the more you show up emotionally, the safer the bond becomes. But when you're dealing with an avoidant, this belief quietly collapses. Because for avoidance, love is not what creates safety. Distance is. And this is one of the most misunderstood truths in modern relationships. Avoidants don't reject love because they are heartless or incapable of feeling. They reject love because closeness has historically felt like danger. To understand why avoidants respect distance more than love, you have to stop thinking in romantic terms and start thinking in nervous system terms. Love activates intimacy. Distance activates control. And control for an avoidant equals survival. Avoidants learned very early in life that closeness came with a cost. Maybe it was emotional overwhelm, criticism, inconsistency, or the silent pressure to meet someone else's needs before their own. Whatever the story, the lesson was the same. Needing someone is risky. Depending on someone means losing yourself. So they adapted. They learned to regulate their emotions alone. They learned to self-soothe, self-validate, and self-protect. Over time, this self-reliance became their identity. Not because it was empowering, but because it was necessary. Distance became the space where they could breathe again, where expectations disappeared, where no one could intrude on their emotional autonomy. So when an avoidant enters a relationship, love does not feel like relief. It feels like pressure disguised as affection. This is why avoidants often seem calm, respectful, even warm when there is space between you. When you stop texting, they suddenly become polite. When you pull back emotionally, they become curious. When you stop asking for reassurance, they show up with more clarity. To the anxious mind, this feels manipulative or cruel. But to the avoidant nervous system, this feels safe. Distance tells them, I am not required to perform. I am not trapped. I can choose. And choice is the most important emotional currency for an avoidant. Love without choice feels like a threat. Distance with choice feels like respect. What most people don't realize is that avoidants don't experience love as warmth first. They experience it as responsibility. Love to them is not butterflies or excitement. It's the moment they realize someone might need them emotionally. It's the moment they sense expectations forming. It's the moment the relationship starts asking something of them beyond what they are ready to give. And because their early wiring equated emotional demand with loss of self, love triggers withdrawal instead of attachment. Distance, however, removes the demand. It says, you don't have to show up right now. And in that absence of pressure, the avoidant can finally feel something resembling respect. This is why chasing an avoidant rarely brings you closer. The more you pursue, the more they retreat. Not because you're unworthy, but because pursuit collapses their internal sense of control. When someone moves toward them emotionally, their nervous system doesn't think, I'm loved. It thinks, I'm about to be consumed. Distance restores balance. It allows them to engage on their own terms. And when they engage on their own terms, it feels authentic instead of forced. That's why avoidants often come back after you stop trying. Not because they suddenly realize your value, but because the environment finally feels safe enough to approach. There's another uncomfortable truth here. Avoidants often respect people who can walk away more than people who stay and suffer. To them, boundaries signal strength. Emotional independence signals safety. Someone who can love without clinging feels trustworthy. Someone who can tolerate distance without collapsing emotionally feels non-threatening. This doesn't mean avoidants don't want intimacy. It means they only want intimacy that doesn't erase them. And most people, unknowingly, try to bond with avoidance by offering more emotion, more reassurance, more availability, exactly the things that make avoidance shut down. Distance also allows avoidance to romanticize connection without having to live inside it. When you're not physically or emotionally close, they can miss you in small doses. They can think about you without confronting the vulnerability of being fully seen. They can feel attachment without exposure. This is why avoidants sometimes seem more affectionate when you're unavailable. Absence allows fantasy. Presence demands reality. And reality requires emotional risk. But here's where things get painful for the person loving an avoidant. Because love to you means showing up. It means talking things through. It means reassurance, closeness, shared emotional space. So when you offer love and receive distance in return, it feels like rejection. It feels like you're asking for something reasonable and being punished for it. Over time, this creates self-doubt. You start wondering if you're too much, too emotional, too needy, too intense. But the truth is, you're simply speaking a different emotional language, and the avoidant hears your language as pressure, not connection. Avoidants respect distance because distance gives them time to regulate. It gives them space to process emotions without being observed. Many avoidants were never taught how to feel emotions in real time with another person. They learned to retreat, analyze, and return once the intensity passed. So when you ask for immediate emotional engagement, it feels invasive. Distance allows them to come back when they feel composed, controlled, and safe. From the outside, this looks cold. From the inside, it feels necessary. This is also why avoidants often appear more respectful after a breakup or during no contact. Once the emotional obligation is removed, they can show kindness without fear of being pulled back into intimacy. They can speak calmly, reflect thoughtfully, and even express care, because the threat of emotional entanglement is gone. Love inside a relationship feels binding. Distance after separation feels liberating. And liberation, for an avoidant, unlocks their softer side. But here's the part most people miss. Avoidants don't actually want endless distance. They want controlled closeness. They want intimacy that expands slowly, predictably, and without emotional ambush. They want to feel chosen, not needed. They want to feel invited, not obligated. Distance becomes a filter. It helps them assess whether someone can respect their autonomy or whether closeness will turn into emotional captivity. If you collapse when they pull away, it confirms their fear. If you remain grounded, it challenges it. This doesn't mean you should suppress your needs or tolerate emotional neglect. Understanding avoidance is not the same as sacrificing yourself. Distance should never be used as a strategy to manipulate or win someone back. It should be used as a mirror, a way to see whether the relationship can breathe when pressure is removed. Healthy distance creates curiosity, not anxiety. It creates mutual choice, not power imbalance. If distance only works when you disappear completely, that's not respect. That's avoidance. The deeper truth is that avoidants respect distance because distance respects them. It honors their pace, their boundaries, their nervous system. But real love, healthy love, eventually requires them to stretch beyond that comfort zone. It requires learning that closeness doesn't have to mean loss of self, that emotional presence doesn't have to lead to overwhelm, that love can be spacious instead of consuming. This is the work avoidance must do internally, and it cannot be forced by someone else's devotion. So if you're loving an avoidant, the most powerful shift you can make is this. Stop proving love and start embodying stability. Stop chasing closeness and start anchoring yourself. Let distance reveal the truth instead of fighting it. Because when an avoidant respects you, it's not because you loved harder. It's because you didn't abandon yourself in the process. And paradoxically, that's the kind of presence that feels safest to someone who has spent their whole life afraid of losing themselves in love.